Hello, my name is Mr. Chipman, and I teach biology and AP biology at Murray High in Murray, Kentucky. This is Unit 2, Living World Biodiversity. 2.3, Island Biogeography, AP Environmental Science. You're at the right place. Let's talk about island biogeography. What does that mean? Well, just think about it. You got islands, right? Bio, life, geography, geography. It's like places, right? Maps, that sort of thing. And so island biogeography is the study of like distribution, diversity, ecological relationships, organisms, all that stuff, but related to islands specifically. Interesting thing here is the island, the idea of an island, what we think of, this thing surrounded by water. Yes, good. But it could be the researchers who came up with this, E.O. Wilson, MacArthur, I don't remember the first name, also mentioned that it could be islands like a mountaintop or something that's isolated by another way. Could also fit into this. This is the graph they came up with. Fantastic little graph here, but could be confusing. So let's look at it together. So on the left, on the y-axis, you have rate, right? Just simple kind of generic term. The rate at any one of those things is occurring, number of species on the x-axis. And you have a couple of lines, very important. You have colonization. We're going to talk about colonization. And then you have colonization versus a close island, close to mainland, versus a more remote. And then you have extinction, right? The rate at which things go extinct. You have small islands versus large islands. And so you can see that something that is close to land and large, right, the intersection between those two is going to have a larger number of species, right? And so the worst thing would be a small island that is remote, right? And so this is kind of the idea there. So let's look at some of these concepts. Colonization first. This is the idea that some sort of organism from the mainland makes its way to an island and colonizes it, becomes a normal there, reproduces, its family reproduces, and so forth. Right? It's not just a trip out and a trip back. It's a trip to stay sort of thing. Colonization occurs many different ways. Right? It occurs through wind, water, other animals. A successful colonization obviously is going to establish a population that will be there for longer periods of time. Higher immigration rates you're going to see, or colonization rates, or you're going to have with islands that are closer to the mainland, obviously, because they're closer, right? And lower extinction rates, obviously, the closer to the mainland as well. Think of the mainland as sort of this area that the animal can always get back to. The further out, there's less likelihood that they're not getting back to that mainland and they're unable to support themselves. The further out you get, the more likelihood that you're going to have some other things occurring too, like speciation, which is not really a part of what we're talking about, but I just thought I'd mention it because it's interesting. Higher extinction rates, the further out you go, higher degree of difficulty as far as creating a successful colony as well. And this brings us to this idea of evolutionary roles. So there's two roles when it comes to these island environments and the types of animals specifically that live on them. And this could really be used in any sort of, we talked last time about it was in 2.1, things that cause a loss of biodiversity. And I kind of hinted at this, but we have names for them now. We have the specialist and the generalist. So the specialist species has a very narrow niche. What is a niche? It's like a role in an ecosystem. Right, and so think of a panda. Panda is a great example of a specialist species. Feeds on one thing, bamboo, lives in one place, these highlands in China. Right, it doesn't do anything else very well. In fact, you put it somewhere else. You put it in like a deciduous forest, like LBL or something here, and it's just going to die. Right, it can't eat anything. It's going to really struggle. It's very specialized. Right, extremely specialized. And so if the environment changes at all, that animal is going to be at risk, right? And so this animal is less likely to be able to colonize an island and do well. Then you take the generalist, like the trash panda, the raccoon, right? Great comparison. They're actually closely related animals, I mean, kind of close, but you get the idea. Look at a phylogenetic tree, and you'll see what I'm talking about. A raccoon is very adaptable, right? You could take a raccoon from your backyard, put it in a box, and feed it and take care of it, obviously, and then ship it to the other side of the world and drop it off. And it'll be disoriented for a minute, but then it's going to figure things out pretty quick, right? It doesn't matter where you put it. Now, obviously, there's some extreme examples of that. You could put it in a desert or an ice cap or something. It's not going to live. But if you put it in a place that's generally close to its own environment, it doesn't have to be exact, like a panda has to be exact. That raccoon is going to adapt, right? It's going to live off the land. It's going to live off people. It's going to live off whatever's available to live. So it's a generalist species. It has a very broad niche, right? And so generalists have very high tolerance to any kind of change. Now we're going to look at how something like this could be invasive, particularly when a generalist is invasive. It's very difficult. There's several examples of this we could go into. So let's talk about some examples here. So this is a great example of how islands and proximity of islands cause different changes and animals being able to adapt from that. These are a group of animals called honey creepers. They came from an ancestral black and white bird down there. It's like they didn't have color when it was around, and then its ancestors actually got to see things in color. So it was this ancestral honey creeper that was on Hawaii, right, and got there somehow, some way. And then all of a sudden, the islands start popping up randomly, over the course of, generations of time. And they colonize these islands. Well, each one of these islands is going to have a distinct sort of ethos to it, a distinct sort of ecosystem. It's a better word. Sorry for the word ethos there. It's an ecosystem. So those animals over time are going to, the traits that are best suited for that environment are going to survive, right? And so on one island you have insects, and so you have an animal that has a beak like that. And then the other island you have seeds, or another island you have nectar, right? And so all of those different competing stresses on those animals are going to cause this sort of difference, right, as you get further and further away from the mainland. Here's an example of a generalist species that has done some harm. This is called the brown tree snake. It is brown, it lives in a tree, and it's in Guam, and it's a generalist species, so it's able to adapt very well. And a place like Guam's a small island, and so the species on that island are going to be very specialist, right? They live there, and they can't live anywhere else. You don't find them anywhere else. And so this species invaded the island and can live anywhere and caused the extinction of several bird species because of its presence, right? It's an invasive generalist. It's able to outcompete the birds. It's able to prey upon them and eventually cause several of them to be extinct. Another example that no one wants to hear is house cats. House cats are probably the number one invasive species in the world, and people take them places and then they get feral and get crazy, and they kill a bunch of reptiles and birds, right? Because they're able to live anywhere. They're good hunters wherever you put them, right? They prey upon little animals. There's little animals everywhere, and it doesn't matter. Whereas those little animals oftentimes are specialists where they live because of the remoteness of the location. Rats are another example of this same idea. Very, very important concept. The further away you get away from mainland, those species tend to be highly specialized, right? They can't live anywhere else. And so that's a very important idea in this realm. Let's look at some practice. Which of the following best explains why island species tend to be more vulnerable to extinction than mainland species? We're just talking about this. Pause the video, see what you got. They're often generalists. They're not, right? They're not generalists because they don't have a wide ecological niche. They have a very specialized niche. They evolve more slowly due to low immigration rates. Immigration and evolution are not necessarily tied together. They could be. They are often specialists with limited adaptability and resources. We like C. They don't have higher genetic diversity, right? D's no good. So we like C. Man, I hope this was helpful. 2.4 is going to be coming real soon.